My fashion sense is basically just Hawaiian shirts with hidden ARs in them these days. You guys, today we're talking about ammo prices. It is getting into scam territory, and I want to talk a little bit later in this video about a couple things that we're doing to cut prices pretty dramatically on the ammo that you see us using on this channel. We have no ammo sponsor, we're paying for everything, and so it gets pretty dang expensive with how many thousands of rounds we go through making videos for you guys. So I've been tracking the ammo prices in an Excel sheet since 2019. And since then, how much do you think ammo prices on average have gone up? We're tracking a whole bunch of different cartridges, different loads, everything. On average, 2019 today, ammo prices are up 36%. Ouch! You know, sometimes I'll still find a box of old ammo that's like $17.99. I'm like, oh gosh, not today. And so with the prices having gone up, you know, hey, everything went up with COVID. But it's a little bit more frustrating than that because the quality of the ammo is going down in many different brands. You know, I'm sorry, I've got to call out Hornady on this one, but man, it feels like every time I pick up a different box of Hornady ammo, it's a new load. And I'm getting different velocities. You'll see a gold primer in one, a silver primer in the other, in not just the 7 PRC, but in other cartridges as well. The whole point of factory ammo is that it's the same every time. And so if I'm on a hunt in Duluth, I can go stop by Grandpa's little gas station and grab a box of 30-06. Just not so. It's just, that's what's always kind of touted as the benefit of factory ammo is you can always just grab it and it's ready to go. And that's just not the case. It maybe never has been, but it certainly isn't now. And so I just don't trust the ammo that we're getting. And so that is incredibly frustrating. And what's worse is in videos, you always hear me saying, like, if you want to get the best result out of your rifle, you need to go buy 5 different loads. Go buy 5 loads and try them all in your rifle, shooting several groups to really see what it can do. Because if you just buy a rifle and just grab one box of ammo, who knows if those two like each other? And you just may never get the results out of that rifle because you haven't tried multiple loads. Well, now with ammo prices where they are, I mean, that could be a $300, $350 venture to go get 5 loads. That could be half the cost of your rifle. And so that's incredibly frustrating for people. And so it gets into a couple things. One is hand loading cheaper than buying factory ammo in 2025. We've looked at it a couple times in the past, but now the price of the factory ammo has changed a lot and some of the components. And so I went through all the numbers to see what it is, and it's very interesting. Coming up, let's talk about reloading versus factory ammo. But first, let's look kind of more deeply at the cartridge itself. You got 4 pieces. You got primer, brass, powder, and the bullet. So what percentage of the cost is the primer, is each one of the components? It depends if you're shooting it multiple times, it depends how many times you're gonna be able to reuse the brass. Let's assume for this that we have good brass, we take care of it, and we get 8 reloads out of that piece of brass. If that's the case, these are the numbers. However, if you're buying factory ammo, you're not reusing that brass, right? And so that's these numbers. So the primer and the powder are relatively very, very tiny, you know, 10 cents on each cartridge. The brass and the bullet is what the cost of the ammo is. It's the brass and the bullet. That's where all the money is going. And so one is really frustrating if you live in a certain number of states, and that is the bullet. Because if you live in California or many of these liberal states, you've got to use the copper bullets, and most copper bullets are at least $1 per bullet, just for the bullet, not the whole fully loaded cartridge. Just the bullet is $1. And so it's just going to be tough to get any reasonably priced ammunition there. The copper loads are getting better and better, and I like what it's doing. I've hunted just a couple times with copper loads and had good experiences. But the problem I always have is I'm like, do I really want to load this in my gun? Because if it likes it, I'm going to want to shoot hundreds of rounds. And that's going to be hundreds of dollars if I'm shooting the copper versus a simple lead bullet. Then the cost of the brass. You can get cheap brass, you can get the bulk Hornady or Winchester brass, but you won't get that many firings on those if you're hand loading. If you're getting the Hornady brass is notoriously soft. Sometimes you're only going to get 2 firings on that brass, and the primer pocket is going to open up. It won't really work to reload it. So now let's get into that. Let's look at the hand loading, and then I want to show you a couple. In fact, I'm going to switch it around. You know what, you guys? I want to show you a couple factory loads. For those of you that aren't reloaders, we've a couple of cool things, and they're things that I want to kind of highlight. This is hashtag not sponsored, even though it might sound like it is. Number one, we have had really good results with the SIG ammo. The SIG Marksman Hunter, SIG Marksman Elite. When we're reviewing rifles, something that's very important to us is the compatibility of a load. We want to have loads that generally are going to work in rifles. There are some bullets that are great, but you kind of really have to tweak them to get them to work. And whatever they're doing in this SIG ammo, we've just found it to be extremely compatible. It usually works really well in lots of different cartridges, lots of different rifles that we've tried it in. And this stuff is usually a little bit, maybe $10 less than some of the other popular loads. And a new one that I have heard quite a bit of positive feedback about from several different people, and I am anxious to try. We actually have a video coming out on the Backfire Ballistics Lab channel. If you aren't subscribed to Ballistics Lab, that's Garrett's channel. Say hi, Garrett. That's Garrett's channel, and he's going to take out this big box of all this in a bunch of different cartridges and different rifles and see how it performs. But this is the Barnes new Harvest series. So you probably know Barnes for the copper ammo that they do. They make some great loads, but they wanted to hit something a little bit more price point, and so they came out with this Harvest line, $39. I really like, in a bunch of different cartridges, and it's using the Sierra bullets, same family of companies, Barnes and Sierra. So it's a lead bullet, and I'm hearing good things about the compatibility with different rifles, that it's shooting pretty well. But I have not yet shot it myself. So Garrett's gonna go do that test for us and see how it performs. But that's another less expensive option. So reloading, is it cheaper than factory? So I have an Excel sheet that I'll kind of show you here. That it just depends on a lot of assumptions. Like, are you paying for your time? Do you need to pay for reloading equipment, etc. I'm not gonna worry too much of the equipment. Guys, for about $400, you could get started in reloading with like good quality things that could last you a lifetime. Now, you can of course spend on all the gadgets and everything and totally lose all profit. But for $400, you can get a reasonable reloading setup that can make extremely precise ammo. So we're gonna worry less about the gear and more about the time and the components that you've got to get. So I have here several different loads. We just kind of picked at random, bunch of different loads. And this is the average cost that we're seeing of the factory ammo. Here's the cost per round. Well, if we reload and we assume 8 firings per piece of brass, you're saving over $1 every single time you pull the trigger. But that's not it. It's not just that you're saving that $1, it's that you're getting way better ammo. And when I go on a hunt, I'm not trusting factory ammo anymore. I'm not seeing that consistency. And so I want to know what's going into my rifle to make a good shot. Plus, that frustrating thing that we often say, go buy 5 loads and try them in your rifle. Well, when you're reloading, you save a ton there, because you don't need to necessarily load up 20 shots of every different one. You want to get a good sample, but maybe it's 10. You know, maybe you're loading 10 of a bunch of different settings, trying different things to get them to work. But also, you might not need to try 5 different bullets. You could try 1 bullet at, you know, different seating depths. You're pushing that bullet more in and out of the case. That makes a big difference sometimes in how it shoots. And so you might not need to buy a bunch of different brands of bullets as well. And so if you're really doing that load development and trying to find what your rifle likes, you're going to save a ton if you're hand loading. And if you're buying inexpensive rifles, you may find that your rifle costs half as much because of how much you're saving on that ammo. But there's also the time, right? So my personal analysis when I'm determining if I want to reload, I don't really worry about the time that I'm getting paid because I enjoy it. It's my hobby, right? It's like, you know, when you buy a surfboard, do you factor in, well, how many hours am I going to spend on that surfboard? I could be working, so really this surfboard cost me $10,000. No, you say the surfboard costs $200. Sweet, let's go surfing because you're enjoying it. It's time that you're wanting to spend, right? And that's kind of how I feel about the reloading. I get a lot of passion out of getting the best absolute results out of my rifle. Even if you're paying yourself $30 an hour to reload though, you're still saving quite a bit over factory ammo, except compared to the very budget stuff like Hornady Whitetail, Remington Core Lock, those very budget oriented loads. One more thing you can do to save some money is look at the cartridges you're getting. You know, if you're shooting 7 backcountry, well, don't be surprised when ammo costs you an arm and a leg and you really don't want to go to the range to train because it's going to cost you $200, right? You're shooting a cartridge that only one company can load for, and it's the high pressure stuff, it's the new stuff. They know they got you. They know they got you. Once you get that rifle, they know you're on the hook. Or similarly, many of the newer cartridges, 7PRC is pretty expensive to shoot. But if you pick some of the more tried and true stuff, hello, 270 Winchester, 20% of you guys voted that as your favorite hunting cartridge. 270 is it's inexpensive to shoot. It works on such a wide variety of game. Phenomenal. 308, 6.5 Creedmoor. And then also consider doing your training, you know, during the summer, during the spring, just when you're wanting to just get reps in, but not necessarily, you know, developing your load for a hunt. Go shoot a 22 LR or a 223. Those could be, you know, well under $1 a round. 22 LR, more like 20 cents. You know, they're inexpensive to shoot, and you're getting all that same practice, especially if you're practicing that 22, you know, out to 120 yards, and you've got to adjust for distances and stuff like that. That's phenomenal. So, factory ammo, I feel like the prices are getting to be kind of a scam. It's just getting too much when it costs me $2.50 every time I pull the trigger. But there are a few ways to bring those costs down and honestly get better results as well. Thanks everybody for joining us in this video. We'll see you in the next one.